Hey, Redemption Tucson. Stephen Collins here, one of the pastors. Hope you guys are doing well on this Monday morning, hanging in there. This is the next installation of our daily encouragement series, just helping get our eyes off of our news feeds and on to Jesus. And so what I want to use as a tool to help us look to Jesus is actually from my favorite piece of fiction, and that is The Lord of the Rings. And so I have a couple quotes. You don't need to have read the story or know it deeply to, I think, be impacted by this, but here's a couple quotes. The first one is an interaction between the characters Frodo and Gandalf, and Frodo says, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." And Gandalf replies, "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." And this to me really echoes Acts 17 that says that God appoints the time and the dwelling place of his people, or Esther in that story in the Old Testament saying that maybe it's for such a time as this, Esther, that God has raised you up to bring redemption and salvation to his people. Or Romans chapter 5 that says that at the right time Christ died for us. There's reality of this time we're living in 2020, this cultural moment of coronavirus, is not by accident. We've been placed here by God to be salt and light, to be a city on a hill, to embody the way of Jesus that should look different than the way of the rest of the world. Taking on a posture of self-sacrifice, embodying the law and the way of love. Looking to the interests of others and not ourselves. To take on a posture of generosity, not selfishness, and not greed. And the question is, as Gandalf says, what will we do with this time that is given us? It's okay to say, like Frodo, I wish it need not have happened during my time. But that's not for us to decide. The question is, what will we do with this time given us? And the second quote is from an interaction between Sam and Gandalf. And this is after everything, all the evil has been purged from the world. And Sam thought his friend Gandalf had died, but indeed he lives. And this is their first interaction. And Sam says, "Is everything sad going to come untrue? What's happened to the world?" And Gandalf replies, "A great shadow has departed." And then he laughed, and the sound was like music or like water in a parched land. And what I want to encourage us with, to that question Sam poses, is everything sad going to come untrue? Yes. One day this coronavirus moment will pass. It will. But even more than that, all sin and evil and injustice and wrong will one day pass. The end of the story, Revelation 21, the end of the scriptures say that one day Christ will return to make all things new. One day this will pass. One time the shadow will pass. Dawn will break. And I think about this, how do we know? How do we know this is true? Because Jesus is alive. We're in this Lent season, and it's kind of been forgotten in the midst of all this. Jesus is alive, and he has conquered sin and death and evil, and he will one day put it all to rest when he returns gloriously. And we're closer today than we were yesterday to that return. And so we can say to Sam, yes, everything sad is going to come untrue. And the sound will be like music, and it will come as good news like water in a parched land. So that's my encouragement to you guys today. Hang in there and keep looking to Jesus. He's alive. He's coming again.